Hello everyone, today we'll talk about macro photography and how to get macro photo. So here we can see a lens and the sensor. So this is the sensor and this is the lens. If you have the subject here, you have the picture reflection to the sensor. This distance will be the focal length of your lens. So if it is like 50 mm lens, then this will be 50 mm. The height of this one is larger than this height. So in this case, we can say that this ratio is about 1 to 2. For example, if this one is like 20 centimeter, this one is like 10 centimeters, so you can do the ratio. So it is 1 to 2. So this is quite close to macro, but is not actual macro. In order to get actual macro, you need 1:1 ratio. Means the actual length here, if it is like 10 centimeter, you get here also 10 centimeter. Then the ratio will be, in this case, actual macro is 1:1. This is for the closest focus. Means the closest you can go to the subject and focus on it, then you can measure your macro capability. So this 1:1 ratio, we can call it a macro lens. Beyond that, we can have a macroscopic effect, means a magnification effect. For example, if this one is 5 centimeter, then you get a magnification into your sensor. So your sensor height is 10 centimeter. In this case, this is 2 height on the sensor and 1 height of this actual subject. In this case, we can call this one 2x, 2-time magnification. So how to get macro? How to achieve this magnification? You have 2 ways to do that. You can see here, the front contains the larger optics, the large lens, while the back contains the smaller optics or the smaller lens. So one way to get macro is by flipping around this lens. So you will have at the front the small lens, while at the back you will have the large lens. So you can get the magnification effect. So if you have your subject here full length, for example, this one is 10 centimeter, then sensor also is 10 centimeter, while the subject will be magnified. So you will be zoomed in, showing just part of your subject. So you'll have a magnification in this case. For example, this one is like 20 centimeter. Then in this case, you'll get 2:1 ratio. So you'll have 2x magnification. Another way to get macro effect is by moving the lens farther away from the sensor. When you are back here, you can see this subject is smaller on the lens. So you can have here 2 and this one is 1. So the normal ratio is 1 to 2. So what happens if you move the lens away from the sensor? This is your subject here, and this is the reflection of the subject. Again, you will have the same zoom effect. So you will see only part of the subject. You will be zoomed into the subject. So you can have the magnification effect like we discussed earlier. For example, this one is 10 centimeter, this one is 10 centimeter, but this one is now showing just part of your subject. For example, half of it. If it is showing half of the subject, then you will have 2:1 magnification ratio or 2x. So this is already beyond macro photography. So how to move the lens farther away from the sensor? We have 2 ways. First is to add spacers. We call those macro extension tubes. You can buy them cheaply. They can either be electronically connected, it will be more expensive, so it can retain the autofocus and other functionalities, or they can just be a spacer without any electronic connection, so you lose the autofocus. These spacers come in different sizes. For example, this can be 20 mm, this one could be 15 mm, this one could be 10 mm, and so on. So you can stack many spacers to get more macro effect. So you can control the magnification effect by the number of the extension tubes. The other method is using the bellow. So the bellow is also an extension, but it is controlled by a track. So you have small gear that make the extension tube longer or shorter. I have my Canon 50mm vintage lens. It is manual lens. I don't use it much these days, so I decided to convert it into a macro lens. So I bought a converter from FD to AI, means from Canon to F-mount Nikon. Then I have the other converter, since I have also vintage lens from Nikon. So I have the AI to micro four thirds. So this one added quite an extension. So this one had already some macro effect. This setup, I took a picture of this ruler at the closest focus range. So you can see here, the closest I can take is about 43 millimeter. The micro four thirds sensor, the width of the sensor is 17.3 millimeter. So the ratio will be the sensor size. We will take the width only, not the height. So the sensor width is 17.3 to 43. This is the actual length of the subject. So this ratio will be around 1 to 2.5. So it's still not a macro, but is quite close. You can take pictures of flowers or small insects. So this is a sample picture of this lens with this extension tube. Then I bought a bellow. So this bellow has 15 centimeter extension. So the total length of extension is 150 mm. And this bellow is a Nikon mount AI. So here we can see the bellow fully extended. And we can see here the 1/4 inch mounting screw beneath, so you can fix it on the tripod. I fixed the Canon with the converter to Nikon mount, then connected to the bellow. So let's measure how much macro this bellow can generate. So this is a picture with fully closed or fully subtracted length. So the smallest macro in this case, here we can see this is 1 centimeter. This is 1.5 centimeter. This is 1.63. So the width of the micro four thirds sensor is 17.3 mm to the width of the actual object 16.3 mm. So the ratio in this case will be nearly 1:1 ratio. So this bellow allows me to take actual macro photography 1:1 while it is fully closed. Then if we extend fully 150 mm or 15 centimeter, we can see here this is actually 1/2 centimeter and this one is less than 0.6 centimeter. So the ratio is 17.3 to 5.7 mm. So this will translate into roughly 3:1 ratio, means we have here 3x magnification, means that I can magnify the actual length 3 times. So this is a picture of tiny ant on my fingertip. We can see here dirt on the sensor is very visible at this extreme zoom length. So it is a microscopic photography already. You can see here this ant is less than 1 mm, is around 0.3 or 0.4 mm in width. We can see here also the very shallow focus plane from here to here only. Here is blurred while here also is blurred. So this is the very shallow depth of field. You'll have this difficulty when you take macro photography. So you can overcome this one by closing the aperture as much as possible. So you extend the focal plane, but you'll have a darker image. So you need very intensive light to get the picture. Here we can see a picture of a needle. This is macroscopic photography again. We have here, this one is 1 mm. You can see here each line is 100 micron. So any specks here of dust or on the needle is in micron. It will be like 50 or 60 micrometer. This is not sure, is it a bee or wasp? So this is fully closed below. Here is halfway zoomed. then we can see full zoom. This is 3x. Again, if you have any dirt on your lens, it will be very visible at this extreme zoom. My lens is more than 30 years old, so it's quite dirty. I didn't open it to clean it up. So hopefully you find this video useful. If you like it, please press like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.